Well, Tammy, how you doing? Welcome to the podcast today.
Good. Thank you for having me. It's an honor, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I love how you spell your last name. It reminds me of the famous Red Fox. Were you related to Red Fox?
No, I'm not related to him, but I believe that was his first name. This one is my last.
That's
Yeah.
true. That would make a difference too. I was thinking that it's early in the morning and my brain hasn't really totally kicked in yet. I just saw red and thought Red Fox though. So
Yes.
now that we got that off to a great and swimming start, let me ask you my favorite question. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
To be myself.
I like that.
Yeah, to be myself. And it took me I'll be 45 next year. It took me 45 years to literally accept and understand what that meant.
It is hard because we're not told or taught to be ourselves. We're taught to put on airs or try to impress people. So sometimes you got to pick through all the different pieces and layers of who we think we are to get to the real us. And
Yeah.
then as you get older, you just coalesce and you tell people honestly who you are.
Yeah. That's what a few of my friends and I were talking about. They were like, after you reach a certain age, it just doesn't matter. And you're like, hey, this is who I am. Accept me as I am, or don't accept me at all. Either way, I don't really care. So
Well, life goes on if you like me or
yeah,
not. That's
yeah.
right. So I'm curious, you have a lot going on in your life. You've written several books. You're an accomplished author. Who are some people in your life who serve to inspire you or maybe be a mentor for you along your journey?
Okay, so let me just say that this list is long. So if anybody is listening and I leave out your name, just charge it to my head, not my heart. I'm getting older and I forget sometimes because people touch you in your teens, they touch you in your 20s, they touch you in your 30s, and I've been inspired even in my 40s. But I'm gonna say some mainstays that have touched every aspect or every area of my life would probably be my grandmothers, both of them. Both of my grandmothers were hardworking women. One had 11 children, the other one had 10. So I come from very big families. Both of my grandmothers are college educated. They worked. One of them owned her own bakery and business. So everything I do and learned have come from them. Even when I talk about me being a chef for 20 years, I usually tell people that my grandmothers were my first culinary instructors. So yeah, my grandmother's taught me everything: how to sew, how to garden, how to do just about any and everything. So yeah.
So, being someone who is a culinary expert, what is your favorite? This is one question that you did not get ahead of time. What is your favorite dish to make?
Okay, so listen. I'm a nutritionist, okay? So this not fair because now you about to expose me to everybody. But I always tell people I'm a nutritionist, but I'm human too. So I have my own little crumbs. My grandmother's cheesecake. That's actually my favorite dish to make and to make renditions of, but that's also my favorite thing to eat. So every year for my birthday, my grandmother's 96 years old, but she still makes all of us birthday cakes. So every year she actually makes a cheesecake for me.
Wow. So, we are on the eve of Thanksgiving.
Hmm.
What are you bringing as a Thanksgiving dinner? What's that Thanksgiving dinner look like at your house?
Okay, so each year is a different thing. Okay, just gonna keep it 100 with you. It just depends on the mood that I'm in and what I want to cook. So this year we're doing some stuffed chickens, some stuffed Cornish hens. Of course, we're gonna have a deep fried turkey because we're Southern. We are also going to have all of the regular trimmings: green beans, sweet potatoes. I'm making homemade mashed potatoes. I'm also doing stuffing or dressing in our culture, dressing. I'm making some collard greens. Well, actually mixed greens. I'm doing collard, mustard, and kale all together. So yeah, everything you can think of.
All right. See, now I got to ask you, as I've heard this question asked of another famous black woman, how do you make your collard greens?
So let me just say this. First, we start with the cleaning process, okay? We start with the cleaning process. And I'm gonna be honest with you, it depends on who I'm cooking for. Because when I cook for my grandmama, I'm not allowed to use smoked turkey or chicken broth or any of that stuff. When I cook for my grandmama made me throw a ham hock over in my collard greens. So again, it depends on who I'm cooking for, because she's 95 years old and I'm going to do everything she tells me to do when she tells me to do it. So in her greens, I will put a ham hock, a serrano pepper, a little bit of vinegar, and all the seasonings that you like. I do garlic, I do onion, I do paprika, I do all of that in her greens. In other people's greens who are living more of a healthier lifestyle, I will do smoked turkey sometimes, but most of the time I start my base with a chicken broth, which is one of the things I often teach in nutrition is if you cook with flavor, you don't have to add as much salt. So I start my base with the chicken broth, and if I'm doing smoked turkey, I'll throw that over in there. I season my base, of course, again, onion, garlic, and in other people's greens, I don't put serrano peppers. I may put a little small couple of small chilies because my grandmama likes some spicy greens, okay? So, like I can't take her greens sometimes because she like it spicy, she like it with vinegar, and she like it with ham hocks. So if I'm cooking for my grandmama, that's different. But if I'm cooking for other people, it's more on the healthier side, especially when I'm doing mixed greens, like with kale, mustard greens, collard greens, all of that. I definitely throw over in some red onion, and I might jazz it up a little bit sometimes and put some red pepper in it. It just depends on who I'm cooking for once again. So yeah.
There you go. Now, I ask all those questions, get around to this question, which was, tell us about your journey of becoming a registered dietitian and nutritionist. What made you pursue that path?
I'm a breast cancer survivor.
Mm.
And I have been a chef for 20 something years when I was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 34. Um, One of the things, I'm a nerd and I'm a researcher. So I'm always trying to find out new things, new information. And when I was going through that, one of the things that terrified me was finding out that women who are diagnosed with breast cancer at that age rarely survive. And it's for several reasons. It's due to health care, and it's also due to the type of medications and the type of services or the types of healing services that they go through, which is why you'll find nowadays a lot more people tend to lean more towards nutrition and holistic things versus going straight to chemo. Chemo can be very damaging for your body and for your system, and I'm not an advocate against it or for it. I actually had chemo, but in my particular case, because I'd done so much research, I challenged my doctors with a lot of things. And when I finished my chemo and radiation treatments, my doctors actually wrote my recommendation letters for me to go to school for nutritional science. And I'd already been a chef for 20 something years. So now it wasn't about what I was feeding people. It was about what I was feeding people and how it would help their health journey as well.
That's awesome. So you have a book, 30 Pounds in 30 Days Weight Management Program. Tell us about that.
Okay, so listen, it's funny that you ask about that because this is my last year of doing nutrition one-on-one. And even the book, it goes along with an online program, and it's a journal that talks about how to manage your weight. But it's not just talking about the physical weight, it's talking about the mental and emotional weight as well. So now we're taking the online program down from my website, and we're going to expand the book and journal. So it'll actually be coming out in January, a new edition of it, where it will have the meal plans inside of the book. It'll go a little bit more in depth on day to day things that you should be doing to not only release yourself from physical weight, but release yourself from emotional and mental struggles as well. So a lot of what I teach is based off of emotional eating. And a lot of times emotional eating diseases are derived from emotional eating. What I often tell people is, listen, you go to the doctor and your doctor tells you that diabetes and high blood pressure and all of that stuff are genetic diseases. They're not genetic diseases, they're actually genetic behaviors. And what I mean by that is your grandmother taught your mother how to eat. And if your grandmother had diabetes, then she passed those same eating behaviors and traits down to your mother. Your mother now has diabetes, and it wasn't like she had type 1 diabetes, something she was born with. It was developed over time. So it had to do with her eating habits, her behaviors, and things of that nature. So if your mother had those same habits and your mother taught you how to eat, what is going to happen to you?
The same thing.
Yeah, so in my book, 30 Pounds in 30 Days, we talk about how to unlearn some of those eating habits, how to look at some of your emotional triggers and trauma, how to overcome some of that so that it'll stop affecting your physical being.
So I hear a lot about emotional eating and those kind of things. So what are some of the challenges people face when they're trying to deal with that emotional connection with their eating?
So a lot of us see emotional eating comes in two ways. When you think of emotional eating, quite a few of us think of overeating or eating so there is no end. But another form of emotional eating is not eating. Those of us who have high stress jobs, you go through your day to day without eating properly throughout the day, not realizing that your choice not to eat a meal is emotionally based. So what people really face is staying healthy one way or another. Something from their childhood may trigger an emotion that may cause you to not want to eat. So maybe you were a chubby child and somebody said something to you that, you don't really think about it, but it actually sits in your subconscious. So as you're eating certain things, you may not eat as much or may not eat as healthy as you should. A lot of people think it's okay to skip a meal. And if you're practicing intermittent fasting, there is a way to do that and still remain healthy. But if you're just skipping meals just to skip meals, then that's something that you've got going on internally, and you've got to look at why you're doing that, because we should all be eating at least 5 to 6 small meals daily. So if you're surviving off coffee and sugar and things like that, ask yourself, why is that your go-to? A lot of women my age are now embarking upon menopause. And when you're going through that, your hormones are actually dictating what it is that you crave. And at my age, we crave a lot of sugar, we crave a lot of salty foods. So we're eating emotionally without even knowing that it's emotional eating.
So you're telling me it's bad to not eat all day and have one big giant meal during the day? That's a bad idea.
That's a very bad idea. Watch this. I'm finna give it to you in real terms. Would you drive your car all day without gas and then at the end of the day fill it up with gas?
Not typically, but it does make life more exciting.
Okay, yeah, all right. Let's see how excited you are when that car break down on the side of the road, okay? How excited you're gonna be to get out there and hit like a call or Uber to come take you up the street to the gas station to get some gas that you should have put in your car that morning.
Okay, well you get all the fun of that now. See, this is all these practical tips are really helpful. No, so you have another book too called Dear Black Woman, and
Yes.
addresses important issues. What motivated you to write this book, and what message do you hope readers take away from that?
So, Dear Black Woman is a compilation of love letters that I wrote to initially myself. I had gone through a really traumatic relationship, and not just one. I'm going to be honest with you. After going through therapy, I realized that it was quite a few, but this one really, really did something in me and broke me. But I think what it did was it brought all of those emotions up to the surface. My therapist had to really work with me. So this book was actually a therapy assignment that I wrote. They were love letters that I initially wrote to myself about who I am, what I am, my worth, my value, things that I deem important that aren't really important. And I had to take stake in that and say, okay, those things that I think are important aren't important. These are the things that are important. So from Dear Black Woman, I'm hoping that women will find just a letter within that book that resonates with them, that will help them move forward in life as well. A lot of what I teach about is thriving after you've been through a traumatic experience, whether that is in an emotional way, in a physical way, in a mental way, any of that. And the book Dear Black Woman, the podcast Dear Black Woman, and now the magazine Dear Black Woman, all just add to what Black women face on a regular basis, not just here in the United States, but globally.
What do you say? Because that's an interesting topic. What do you say are some of the biggest challenges Black women face today? That maybe that. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Finish your question.
No, because I'm curious that we that's kind of like the million-dollar question. You're all Black women thinking, what are their struggles? How do we relate? So I'm just kind of curious, kind of some of the things you've discovered from doing this work.
Stereotypes. It's all the stereotypes that everybody puts on us, all the labels and masks that we wear, all of the things that we are told we're supposed to do. The very first lesson in my book, and I hope there's a Black woman out here, or just a woman, or anybody who hears this, perfection ain't real. Like trying to live this perfect life, trying to be the perfect person, trying to show up in a perfect way. There is no such thing as that, and you will kill yourself trying to make it happen. You lose out on opportunities waiting for the perfect time. When if you're smart, you'll just do it. Get started, do it. Don't be shy about it. Just step out in the world as your authentic self and just be. A lot of things that we face are mental wellness issues. A lot of Black women suppress their feelings. They suppress, they don't want to show up as the angry Black woman. They don't want to show up as emotional. We show up as the strong Black woman, the nurturer, all of that, the person that's going to take care of everything. And it's time to do away with that. Not saying that you can't do that, or you can't show up as a strong, nurturing person, but you don't have to take care of everything, and you don't have to do everything. You just got to make sure you take care of yourself, because if you're trying to pour into others, you also can't pour from an empty cup.
That's very true. As you do this work, especially in this particular area of your life, what are some of the things you've heard back in terms of feedback from Black women on this journey with you?
Yeah, it's been a little mixed journey. And I'm going to be honest with you, but that's because we deal with Black women globally. Here in the United States, we get a warm reception because we, of course, no, I understand what they mean when they say freedom. We may not have freedoms, but we have a free state of mind, if that makes sense. Meaning that you have the ability to think, feel, and say whatever it is that you want without repercussion. And even though right now in the climate of today's society, Black women are the bottom of the totem pole, we still are last in line for everything, the last thought about when it comes to anything. So what I get a lot of feedback on is, thank you for creating this space for Black women. Thank you for creating a space that focuses on, not just us with fashion and beauty and things of that nature, but focuses on global events, focuses on policy change, focuses on mental health, because we talk a lot about that. We talk about career empowerment, education. We talk about politics and policies, not just here in the United States, but all over the world. I have a project that I'm currently working on with Black women. And when I say I think I have representation from at least one Black woman on every continent right now. I have a Black lady in Australia, one in Brazil, one in Trinidad, one in the Netherlands. Of course, I told you earlier about my co-hosts, one being in Paris and the other one being in London. I have a wealth of Black women here in the United States that we work with as well. So we are not, and in Africa, don't get me twisted. We got a couple of women in Africa that we work with, the North, the South, and in the middle. So for us, it's about collaborating, working together to find a common ground. And we all have commonalities. We all deal with the same things, no matter where we're located, and working to get those issues taken care of for our own benefit, and so that we can be a benefit to others as well.
So if I made you queen for a day, then you could solve some of the bigger things that you're discussing. What are the things you will be tackling?
Let me see. It would be I'm a boy mom, and I'm actually researching and working on a project right now with young men. So one of the things that I would tackle is mental health in men, especially Black men. And that's not just Black men here in the United States, it's all over the world. What I've learned lately and also enjoying my research is that there's been an epidemic of young Black men that are committing suicide, and there's not a lot of research on that, and there are not a lot of places where young men can go talk about their emotional and get emotional support. So that's one of the things that I would tackle. Another thing that I would tackle would most likely be the education system. And I know I sound like what you call it, a politician when I say this stuff, but these are things that I'm a mom, so I think about stuff like this. It would be what is being taught to kids in school. I would make the education system more economic based, teach them more real world type of situations that they will be dealing with, as opposed to trying to cram 1,100 different types of math into their head in a short amount of time. And another thing, probably nutrition. Yeah, especially here in the United States. It would be to change our food systems, to change what is accepted and what people, what big government says is okay for for companies to feed us. That'd be something that I change as well. So those are the top three things. And I know you thought it was going to have something to do with Black women, but believe it or not, everything I named has something to do with Black women.
And I don't see. I don't want to pigeonhole you and stereotype you that you don't go there. I left it open for you to interpret. So I had to throw some questions at you that you were not expecting. So
listen, I'm still prepared.
I know. I'm definitely impressed. So what are some practical tips that you can share with individuals to help them who are looking to adopt a more mindful and sustainable lifestyle? We talk a little bit about, it's not just the food joke. It's not just about diet. It's about a whole lifestyle change. So what are some tips to have a more sustainable, mindful lifestyle?
To create balance in your life, think of your life like a table. And there are various dimensions of wellness. You have your financial wellness, your spiritual wellness, your social wellness, your cultural wellness, your physical wellness, your emotional wellness, your mental wellness. There are various aspects when it comes to wellness. If one of those, like if you had a 4-leg table and one of the legs of those tables was shorter than the other, that would create a ripple effect, and your table wouldn't stand still and it wouldn't be balanced. So you have to look at your life like it's a table, and you have to find balance in all of those areas. Our mental wellness contributes to our financial wellness. Our financial wellness contributes to our spiritual wellness. Our spiritual wellness contributes to our emotional wellness. Our emotional wellness contributes to our physical wellness. All of those things tie into each other. So once you come to that understanding, and once you acknowledge and look at the places that you really need to create more of a schedule or more of something to do in those areas, then you'll find balance everywhere. So like if you get up in the morning and you pray or meditate or hold Bible study, or whatever you may call it, or whatever your belief system is, do that on a regular basis every morning. At night before you go to sleep, journal, write things down, get it out of your head so that you're not toiling over it, because rest is very big for all of your areas of wellness. If you are holding on to different emotions or different things that have traumatized you or have caused a rift in your life, acknowledge those things, deal with those things so that you can move forward in life in a positive way. Those are very easy to do. Now, when it comes to eating, eat more sustainable, eat seasonal foods, eat foods that are in season, eat things that are healthy for your body, eat whole foods. That's not foods that's canned, jarred, or in boxes, but real food. And I know that sounds easier said than done, but if you do like I do, I batch cook every Sunday, and that's where I cook probably about 4 different meals, and I meal prep. So throughout the week, I'm always having something to eat. I have snacks where I put my snacks in individual bags, just little things. I pay attention. And if you're over the age of 40 and you're female, start eating so that you're eating for hormone health, eating in a way that is not going to disrupt your hormones, but also help you, because your hormones affect your mental status, they affect your emotional status, they affect all of that. So those are just some really simple things that you can put in place. I am a firm believer that if you find balance in every dimension of wellness, that your life will be complete. So
This all sounds fabulous. It really does. But no, I'm not being sarcastic. It sounds that way. But I'm curious because, people hear this go, this sounds really good. Can you share a story of someone who really helped to achieve some of these goals you're talking about?
yeah, I got clients and I got videos on my YouTube page too of my clients where I've interviewed clients. I have a client that lives in South Carolina. She's been a client of mine off and on for probably about 7 years now. The first time she came to me because she wanted to lose weight in regards so she could have a breast reduction. Well, we got there and we got to that point, but this was early in my nutrition years and I wasn't really picking up on the signs of things that happen with emotional eating. And we got to that point, and then she called me back about a year later, and she said that it wasn't her or her doctor, it was her pastor who had said something to her about her eating habits and about her gaining all of the weight back. And she wanted to work with me again. And I'm going to be honest with you, I refused her. I did, because what I told her was, I've given you all the tools. You have the meal plans for 6 months. You have all of this. I said, what do you need from me? And she said, I need someone to hold my hand. And I said, okay, I got it. I understand what you're saying. You need somebody to talk to, somebody to bounce some things off of. That's actually where my 30 pounds in 30 days program was developed, from me learning how to communicate and how to talk to my nutrition clients in a way that was effective for them both physically, emotionally, and mentally.
See, that was a setup question. It really wasn't a setup question.
Yeah, but listen, I told you I'm ready for any question you throw at me. You know that. I'm ready. That's why I was like, let's go. You can fire the new questions. They don't have to be the ones you sent me. I'm gonna be prepared either way. Okay.
See, you gave up my secret. People now know, listen to podcasts that I send out pre-recorded questions. If you think that all this is not organic,
they finding out today that you didn't answer none of them pre-recorded questions with me. So you can send them out. They don't necessarily mean that you're going to follow them, okay?
This is true. This is very true. It is a warning. If you come on the podcast, you may get a set of questions. You may or may not follow them. I am curious, as you think about where you are in your journey, what are your future goals and projects you're working on?
I'm moving out of the United States in February.
Where are you going?
I'm moving to Da Nang, Vietnam. Yeah. I am.
You don't look Vietnamese.
I'm not Vietnamese. I'm Black. Listen, I am a Black American, okay? No, I teach about, like I told you earlier, thriving after trauma. So instead of just teaching about it, I want to be able to show my clients what that looks like. I'll be 45 next year. My son is 25 years old. So I'm not married. And I have a desire to travel and see the world and immerse myself in other cultures. I've been a chef, like I told you, for over 30 years now. So I've always wanted to go on a foodie tour, but I've always been enamored with Asian culture. I did a lot of research about Vietnam. I did a lot of research about the city that I'm moving to. Like I told you, I have my 30 pounds in 30 days program. It's coming out in book form now. So that'll be out in January. I have so much going on with the Dear Black Woman brand. We have a podcast. We now have a magazine. We have a book, and I'm working on a book anthology for Dear Black Woman as well, where I have about 20 women telling their stories to other women and actually writing a letter to their inner child to heal themselves from some of the wounds that they're dealing with. But I will be hosting individual and couple retreats in Da Nang, Vietnam. All of that is already in place and it will be popping up on my website very soon. But I leave here, America, on February the 1st.
Wow. So you're starting another podcast now, the Asian, for because if you're going to be in Vietnam, you got to kind of include them.
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
no.
I'm just giving you
You
some
I just
idea.
told see, you just wanna be difficult right now. But no, I just told you, like, my co-host for Dear Black Woman, one is in Paris and one is in London. So Dear Black Woman is already a global podcast and a global magazine. So for me, it just adds to it that now I'm gonna be in Vietnam. So now I get to talk about the Black woman experience of being in Vietnam.
Wait, I got to check out this podcast when you get to Vietnam. I'd be really curious to find out what you learn.
Yeah.
No, I think it's fascinating to learn other cultures. I do it in my work now. I work with a lot of congregations. We have a lot of people coming to our country who are not from our
Mhm.
native America, and so I've had to adapt to listening a lot, to engage in a lot of conversations, to ask a lot of questions, to learn about different
About different
cultures.
cultures.
And it's
Yeah.
fascinating things you learn.
It is. What's crazy is even up under the black culture, and I say black because when I think of it, you could be a black Caribbean, a black African, you could be any of those things. So even up under the black culture umbrella, there's so many other subcultures and so many things that we don't, as Americans, we don't even know about. So it's been a learning experience for me. That's why I say I am enjoying this path that God has decided to put me on, because when I moved back home to Atlanta, I'm gonna be honest with you, I thought I was coming back home as a chef and a nutritionist. I didn't know that I was gonna be this major author who's doing all of this major stuff with the publishing company. I have my own virtual assistant company as well. So I've just been blossoming in so many ways that I didn't imagine I would be able to do so. And it all set me up so that I could go out here and adventure and move around and show people what it's like to literally thrive in life and not just be surviving.
So that brings me to my favorite question I ask my guests. What do you want your legacy to be?
I think about that often. And for me, I know a lot of people think about what it is that they can pass on to the world. That's not mine. Mine is what I can pass on to my child and to make sure that my son is okay in this world. Those are the things that I want. I sort of want to focus on, not so much so leave a message for the entire world, but if I was going to leave a message for the entire world, it'd be, just love each other, be there for each other, and stop being judgmental of others, meaning that just because we may not have the same religious, political, or life beliefs, that doesn't mean I can't find the beauty in you. But for me, it's literally about making sure my son is good in this world.
So, what key takeaways do you leave the audience from our conversation that kind of ventured off of our typical questions?
You don't have to do everything that you plan. Yeah, life will still take you on a journey, even if you plan it. It's okay not to do everything you plan.
I love that. Where can listeners find your books and connect with you on social media?
I am everywhere. And when I mean everywhere, I mean everywhere. I am on TikTok. I am on Instagram. I am on Facebook. I am on X. I am on Threads. I am on LinkedIn. I mean, just Google me. You'll find me. Trust me. I had to Google myself for therapy. And I was like, what? Tammy, you did all of this. All right. Yeah. But no, on TikTok, I am Cami Red. On Instagram and Facebook, I am Cami Red, the number 4 and the word life. So Cami Red for life. You can go to my website, and I have 3 websites just so you know. So I'm gonna give them all to you. For wellness service, it's camired.com. If you're interested in publishing a book or working with me as an author coach or looking for virtual assistant services, you can go to my website, which is Red Ladies, and that's spelled REDDLADYS. And that stands for refined, empowered, dedicated, and determined to love and desire yourself. So, boom.
That's
Okay.
a mouthful.
Yes. but it's redladies.com. And if you're looking for more information on Dear Black Woman, you can go to dearblackwoman.me. So that's dearblackwoman.me. And that is our digital platform. Like I stated, we also have a print magazine. Our digital platform for Dear Black Woman is translated into 6 different languages. Our print magazine is printed in English, French, and Spanish. So if you'd like a subscription, you just go to the home tab, do the drop down, and you'll see the information for pricing and plans. And we have pretty reasonable prices and plans. And you shop with us as well for Black Friday. You can get our books, our journals, our coloring books, as well as some Dear Black Woman merch.
For Black Woman Friday.
That's right.
So when I get done with my book I'm writing, I can just contact you to publish my book for me.
Absolutely. That's actually what I do majority of the time now.
I actually am writing a book, so I'm not just joking on that part.
I know it. And I wasn't joking either when I said it. Yes. Like, no, I'm not joking. Now I'm going to put you down on my list. I'll be following up with you in about 2 to 3 weeks saying, hey, you remember what you said when we was on your podcast?
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, Cammie, thanks so much for coming on and just providing a great conversation. Blessings on your move to Vietnam.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And you have to bring your congregation over to visit me. It's not like it's super expensive. The most expensive part of the trip is the plane ticket. So, yeah.
That's a big part of the trip, though, is the plane.
Yeah, but listen, the funny part is the plane just gets you there, and then you don't see the plane again for another 6 to 7 days, and you be like, "Oh my God, I spent so much on the plane ticket, but I didn't spend hardly as much just on eating and doing excursions and all of that." Yeah.
Cool. I have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, Vietnam is pretty reasonable, very reasonable, more reasonable than it makes me want to say, what are we doing here in the United States?
Well, I'll keep that in mind when I retire in 5 years. Well, Cammie, thanks so much over to you. Thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.